Giza is most famous as the location of the Giza Plateau. The site of some of the most impressive ancient monuments in the world, including a complex of ancient Egyptian royal mortuary and sacred structures, including the Great Sphinx, the Great Pyramid of Giza, and a number of other large pyramids and temples. Giza has always been a focal point in Egypt's history due to its location close to Memphis, the ancient pharaonic capital of the Old Kingdom. The area in what is now Giza served as the necropolis of several pharaohs who ruled ancient Egypt during the 2nd millennium BC. Three of these tombs, in the form of giant pyramids, are what is now the famed Giza Pyramid Complex. The Great Pyramid and the Pyramid of Khafra are the largest pyramids built in ancient Egypt, and they have historically been common as emblems of ancient Egypt in the Western imagination. They were popularized in Hellenistic times, when the Great Pyramid was listed by Antipater of Sidon as one of the 7 wonders of the world. It is by far the oldest of the ancient wonders and the only one still in existence. Egypt essentially has a hot desert climate. The climate is generally extremely dry all over the country except on the northern Mediterranean coast, which receives rainfall in winter. In addition to rarity of rain, extreme heat during summer months is also a general climate feature of Egypt, although daytime temperatures are more moderated along the northern coast. Prevailing northwesterly wind from the Mediterranean Sea continuously blows over the northern coast without the interposition of an eventual mountain range and thus greatly moderates temperatures throughout the year. Because of the effect, average low temperatures vary from 9.5 degrees Celsius in wintertime to 23 degrees Celsius in summertime, and average high temperatures vary from 17 degrees Celsius in wintertime to 32 degrees Celsius in summertime. Though temperatures are moderated along the coasts, the situation changes in the interior, which are away from the moderating northerly winds. Thus, in the central and the southern parts, nighttime temperatures are very hot, especially in summers where average high temperatures can exceed 40 degrees Celsius, like in Aswan, Luxor, Asid or Sohag, which are located in the deserts of Egypt. Every year, sometime from March to May, an extremely hot, dry and dusty wind blows from the south or the southwest. This wind is called Kamasin. When the flow of dry air continuously blows over vast desert regions, it picks up fine sand and dust particles and finally results in a dusty wind, which is generally felt in the periphery of the desert. When this wind blows over Egypt, it causes high temperatures to soar temporarily at dangerous levels, usually over 45 degrees Celsius, the relative humidity levels to drop under 5%. The Kamasin causes sudden, early heat waves and the absolute highest temperature records in Egypt. Some mountainous locations in Sinai, such as St. Catherine, have cooler night temperatures, due to their high elevations. It usually snows on the Sinai Mountains, but it almost never snows in the cities of Giza, Cairo, and Alexandria. For example, in December 2013, Cairo received a single overnight snowfall for the first time since 1901. In spite of the lack of precipitation, the natural vegetation of Egypt is varied. Much of the western desert is totally devoid of any kind of plant life, but where some form of water exists, the usual desert growth of perennials and grasses is found. The coastal strip has a rich plant life in spring. The eastern desert receives sparse rainfall, but it supports a varied vegetation that includes tamarisk, acacia, and mark, as well as a great variety of thorny shrubs, small succulents, and aromatic herbs. This growth is even more striking in the wadis of the Red Sea Hills and of the Sinai and in the Ilba Mountains in the southeast. There are more than 100 kinds of grasses, among them bamboo and esparto, a coarse, long grass growing near water. Robust perennial reeds such as the Spanish reed and the common reed are widely distributed in Lower Egypt, but the papyrus, cultivated in antiquity, is now found only in botanical gardens. The date palm, both cultivated and subspontaneous, is found throughout the delta, in the Nile Valley, and in the oases. The doom palm is identified particularly with Upper Egypt and the oases, although there are scattered examples elsewhere. There are very few native trees. The Phoenician juniper is the only native conifer, although there are several cultivated conifer species. The acacia is widely distributed, as are eucalyptus and sycamore. Several species of the genus Casuarina, imported in the 19th century, are now the country's most important timber trees. Other foreign importations, such as jacaranda, royal poinciana, and lebbek, have become a characteristic feature of the Egyptian landscape. The map shows Egypt, a country situated mainly in the northeastern corner of the African continent, bordering the Mediterranean Sea in the north and the Gulf of Suez, the Gulf of Aqaba, and the Red Sea in the east. The Red Sea coast of Egypt, including the Gulfs of Suez and Aqaba and the intervening Sinai Peninsula, is about 1,500 kilometers in length. There are intermittent fringing coral reefs, with gaps near the wadis that descend from the mountain front across the coastal pediment. Occasional bays and inlets, here termed sherms, indent the coastline, as at Sherm el Madfa, and mangroves also exist locally. To the north is Foul Bay, with a barrier spit fronting an open lagoon at Berenica and a peninsula running out to Ras Benes, where there are outcrops of Pliocene calcareous grits. Egypt is best known for being the birthplace of one of the world's oldest civilizations, as well as for its ancient monuments. Since the ancient pharaoh kingdoms of Egypt, birds have had an important cultural and ecological impact on the country. The Egyptian geese was a bird that was considered to be sacred by the Egyptians of ancient times and was heavily represented in Egyptian art and architecture. This species was also first domesticated by the ancient Egyptians before it spread to the rest of Africa and beyond. Birds are also related to the old gods of ancient Egypt, as the god Horus has the head of a falcon and the god Thoth has the head of an ibis bird. The Nile is a major north-flowing river in northeastern Africa. It flows into the Mediterranean Sea. The longest river in Africa, it has historically been considered the longest river in the world, though this has been contested by research suggesting that the Amazon River is slightly longer. The Nile is amongst the smallest of the major world rivers by measure of cubic meters flowing annually. About 6,650 kilometers long, its drainage basin covers 11 countries: Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Kenya, Ethiopia, Eritrea, South Sudan, Republic of the Sudan, and Egypt. In particular, the Nile is the primary water source of Egypt, Sudan and South Sudan. Additionally, the Nile is an important economic river, supporting agriculture and fishing. The Nile has two major tributaries: the White Nile, which begins at Jinja, Lake Victoria, and the Blue Nile. The northern section of the river flows north almost entirely through the Sudanese desert to Egypt, where Cairo is located on its large delta, and the river flows into the Mediterranean Sea at Alexandria. Egyptian civilization and Sudanese kingdoms have depended on the river since ancient times and its annual flooding. The Nile has been the lifeline of civilization in Egypt since the Stone Age, with most of the population and all of the cities of Egypt resting along those parts of the Nile Valley lying north of Aswan. However, the Nile used to run much more westerly through what is now Wadi Hamim and Wadi al-Makar in Libya and flow into the Gulf of Sidra. As sea level rose at the end of the most recent ice age, the stream which is now the Northern Nile pirated the ancestral Nile near Asit. This change in climate also led to the creation of the current Sahara Desert. Around 3400 BC, water buffalo were introduced from Asia, and the Assyrians introduced camels in the 7th century BC. These animals were killed for meat and were domesticated and used for plowing, or in the camel's case, carriage. Water was vital to both people and livestock. The Nile was also a convenient and efficient means of transportation for people and goods. Stay tuned with the channel. We will glad to see you next time.